Hi. Hi. Greetings. Hi, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Anastasia. I am the creator of the Wild Women documentary series and the Wild Fun website, and yeah. So I'm from Chicago, don't fuck with me, and now I live in London. Fucking hell. Okay, love you to bit. Hello, love. That bit, what about that bit, and the bit here, and the bit, hey mate, sorry mate, sorry. Okay, that's something for you. So I'm here getting my master's in Jungian psychoanalytical psychology, which I decided to come here so that I could learn more about archetypes and psychoanalysis and everything, so I could be better at filming this docuseries and, you know, knowing what it is that I'm trying to convey. I'm still in the midst of releasing episodes from what I filmed over the past summer in Chicago, but I am also doing a mini segment of Wild Woman throughout my travels now, where I'm meeting men and women and getting short video clip stories. I was in Scotland, I met an incredible woman there, and I went to Ibiza with a very close friend of mine, and I didn't meet anybody there, but it felt like it was supposed to be that way, because the transformation that I experienced with my friend was incredible, and I know that it definitely relates to our psychological experience. And maybe I would say it's not even just limited to women, but maybe it's more common in women because of the social constructs that we have the burden of carrying, you know, more so or in different ways than men. So let me tell you what happened. So like I said, I grew up in Chicago, so did my friend. I grew up in a, you know, Mexican, American, Polish culture, and it was honestly really hard for me to figure out like how I identified myself, because I didn't fit into, you know, one group. I wasn't totally Mexican, I wasn't totally American, I wasn't totally Polish. Like, it was kind of, I don't know, it took me a while to figure that out. So I didn't quite grow up in the same culture that my friend did. She grew up in a more conservative Polish culture, where, you know, people are kind of taught, like, you know, certain ways to be, especially as a woman. Like, you dress a certain way, you act a certain way, you get married, you save your money, you do this, you do that. And although I didn't quite grow up in that, I'm very familiar with it, because in Chicago, like, the demographic there, I think Chicago has like one of the biggest Polish populations in the world. So yeah, so my friend, she traveled to London to come and spend about a week with me, and I had a good feeling about it, but I didn't know just how powerful the time we were going to have. So she arrived, and within the first couple days, you know, we went to a couple of dance classes together, and we were having a great time. But I noticed that she was asking me so many questions, and at first I was like, alright, it's like her first time kind of like traveling alone, and like, I get it, it can be pretty scary. But the questions became to a point where I was like, why is she asking me is it okay if she washes her hands? And I was like, what is going on? So I kind of like started feeling like annoyance coming up, and I was like, okay, no, I love this person to death, so I'm definitely not going to like act on this, and I need to figure out like why this is coming up for me, because it's triggering me so deeply, it probably means that there's something inside of me that questions things a lot. Or rather, I know that in my past, like, I used to question myself so much to the point where it would paralyze me, and I wouldn't be able to quite make decisions, and like, it was just rooted in insecurity. Like, but it wasn't an insecurity that was like, oh, I'm not like pretty enough, or I'm not enough. It was just like, I'm afraid to get hurt, or to hurt someone else, or to feel pain I felt from people who tried to control me in my past. Sound familiar? Probably for a lot of women. I mean, I feel like women who, and also men, who kind of go against the conventional standards of how to be, come up against people who try to control them a lot. And I think it's so important that we don't succumb to that, because I really believe that, like, if you've come into this world and you feel different, you're supposed to feel that way because you're meant to help create a new world or a different social structure. So anyway, I was just like, okay, maybe I had this thought go through my head that was like, I hope she dates somebody one day who tells her to stop asking so many questions. And then I had another thought go through my head that was like, you're her friend. You're a good friend when you're honest with your friends. And when you love them enough to tell them maybe they're doing something that's self-destructive. And I thought, I can be the person to tell her. So actually what I did was that I started making light of it. So when she would ask me a question, I would just be like, dude, just ask me the question. But it wasn't from a place of bitchiness or anything, and it came from a place of me wanting to instill in her, like, girl, like, believe in yourself, do the thing, travel, like, you can figure out the train. And she did, and she figured out the tube very well. And it was kind of funny because what happened was, like, throughout our time together, like, whenever we had, you know, to choose to do something, if we didn't listen to, like, my guidance, something didn't run smoothly. But, like, when we listened to what I had to say, it ran quite smoothly. So there came a point where she was like, let's just listen to you. Like, we'll just listen to you. So I was like, all right. So for me, it was really affirming for me to be like, to myself, like, listen to yourself. Like, you kind of know what the fuck you're doing. And I was like, yeah, I kind of know what the fuck I'm doing. But I think a lot of times, and I think a very central theme of this experience that I had with my friend was, like, for us to really believe in ourselves and not to question ourselves so much. So it was Thursday night and we went out for my friend's birthday. And that night we popped into a bar and they were having, like, Spice Girls night, and then my friend told us that she had a friend who had spare tickets to Spice Girls. Now, Spice Girls is like my life. Like, Spice Girls have inspired me to move here, to live here, has inspired my work, the way I dress, like, just so many things. And so the fact that we found tickets, and I didn't think I didn't get tickets in time before because it sold out, was just a fucking miracle. So the next day we went and, like, I just cried at the concert. Like, I was trying not to cry, but I was, like, ugly crying, like, like, trying to breathe, and it just, yeah. The guy next to me was just sitting there like this, and he's probably looking at me like, this bitch. Because they talked about girl power, and they said, like, London is the capital of girl power, and for me that really struck at home because I came here to study something that is so much to do with girl power, and it just felt very, like, aligning. So we left this concert and we were walking to my house here, and a black cat approached us and just ran up to us, started rubbing his face on our legs, and we were just like, oh my god, so cute. And he followed us home and to my door, and I had cat food, so I let him in, and he came in and I fed him, and he hung out with us for, like, a little bit of time. And I was like, now usually, you know, people still attribute a black cat as a negative omen, but actually that is something that came about through the overcoming of Christianity. Now that's a very serious way of saying it. But black cats were actually a symbol of femininity, fertility. Actually, let me read it. Black cats, or all cats, actually originated in Egypt. So I actually had just read this book for my dissertation called The Cat. It's a tale of feminine redemption by Marie-Louise von France, who is a friend of Carl Jung. She was also a psychoanalyst. Women are often really overlooked in psychoanalysis, like everything else in history. The whole devilish aspect of the cat, its witch aspect, has only come into the foreground since the time of Christianity. That has to do with the patriarchal banishing of the feminine shadow. So the Virgin Mary, which we all know is just the light side of the feminine. And so to control women more, they were like, no, you need to be pure and not have sex, but somehow have a baby. Anyway, cats were actually seen as protectresses, to kind of like, because basically, I mean, cats, if you have them in the house, they keep away mice. It's also a huge symbol of independence. And so that was something that became a huge kind of theme for our weekend. So me and my friend went to Ibiza, and in Ibiza we had incredible conversations, and we talked a lot about like women competing with each other and jealousy that we've encountered in our lives. We talked about like people trying to tell us that we should dress a certain way. Don't tell me what to do. I think because, you know, we both are women who are kind of like testing the boundaries, and we're not living in, you know, a conventional standard that's normal to the people in the culture that we grew up in. It's been quite a challenge for us, but I think that her and I coming together, especially this weekend, we created a safe space for one another to feel so absolutely free. We just like applauded each other's beauty, and we were just like each other's cheerleaders. And you know, like when people were staring at us because of the way we were dressed or anything, it was like we kind of provided like, you know, like a shield for one another, and it was amazing. At one point we started talking about relationships and kind of our role in them, and the night that we went out to Pacha, which is a club in Ibiza, I did her makeup, and I took a step back and I looked at her, and she looked like a different person. Just the way she was carrying herself, it was this level of confidence that I felt like I've been waiting to see come through her. And I looked at her and I said, I was like, you look different. Like you just, I don't know, there's something about you. And she was like, I feel different. This is like a turning point for me, and this has been so transformative. And I was like, I could see it. And we went out that night, and we both just felt so free. We were dancing so much, and for me it was like I just didn't give a fuck. I think a lot of times we go out to the club and we want to meet people and we want them to notice us, and you know, I think like women will go there and kind of feel competitive, and a lot of times there's this image making that people really identify with when they go out to these kinds of club scenes. But the music was so good, and I just could feel within myself that I was like, I have the power to make choices that are right for me, and I don't need to feel like I need to do something ever that I don't want to do. And being with my friend, you know, I dressed a little bit more like punk rockish, and she looked like a Barbie, and so then that kind of became like, I was like her guide protector wing woman, and it was her birthday, and so it was just like woo woo. The next day we had this moment where we were sitting on these rocks that we found by the ocean, and we were overlooking the sea, and just the breeze from the ocean and the sun, and just the water was so clear and gorgeous, and we were listening to music, and we were sitting there together, and we were just, something numinous was surrounding us. It just really felt like the time that we spent together created a sort of foundation for both of us to be like, we can be who we are. We don't need to feel like we need to be anything other than who we are. And I think that when you can have another woman in your life who supports you like that, it's so important. You know, because I think a lot of times, like, women often just want to compete against each other, and I think that's very ingrained in us. And especially for beauty standards. What is the competition? Like, what am I actually competing for? And if I put that aside and I recognize that this is like my sister and that we're both beautiful, what could women do? But I mean, like, if someone wants to show a little bit more skin, then like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, let them. Not everybody dresses a certain way to get attention. Sometimes people want to dress the way they dress because that's the way they want to dress. Maybe also women like to dress up and do their hair and do their makeup and look good and look sexy for themselves and to be with their friends, not because they want you to act like a fucking animal. I can't tell you how many times I've dressed in the ways that I dress to concerts and shows, and I have people like looking at me and they like tap their friend on the shoulder and they try to discreetly look at me, and I see them and I honestly stare at them and I'm like, once they look at me, and I'm just kind of like, what is the point of that? Like, if I'm happy and I'm enjoying what I'm wearing, like, what is the problem? And I think that was another thing that me and Monica provided for each other, is that we both like to dress the way that we like to dress. It's sexy, it's creative, it's empowered. But a lot of people can't see past that. So to have another female friend who, you know, feels that way about clothing and applauds women in all their different facets was just like, it was awesome to be around. You know, the trip as a whole, what it really showed me and my friend was that, like, it's okay for us not to fall into what we've been taught to be. It's okay for us to dress how we want. It's okay for us to be free. It's okay for us to not get pregnant right now and have kids and get married, and it's okay for us to take hold of our lives. Because women are not taught that. Being alone right now is really important to me. And I've definitely felt pressure to dress a certain way, be a certain way, be in a relationship a lot in my life, but I've come to a point now where it doesn't feel necessary. And a quote that I actually read in this cat book, again, I really recommend this book. It says, "Then, at the moment when she should marry, the conflict becomes visible. And if she is meant to be a cat, that would mean she is meant to be an individuated woman, a personality in her own right. She cannot be pressed into the marriage scheme of her parents because she is meant to have something to do with the individuation process of the feminine, which cannot be forced into those conventional patterns." Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of like the cat following us home and Spice Girls and what we experienced on the beach with the water. It just had so much to do with the feminine. I think because the feminine has been so oppressed and we've been taught to see it in certain ways and to think certain things about it. And that's something that I'm exploring, like, in my dissertation, is like, what is actually feminine? Like, what is actually masculine? You know, I'm sure that there are these feminine aspects that her and I have, you know, repressed in our lives that are finally, you know, uncovering that men have, you know, repressed too. So this is not just limited to women. I hope that I can continue to reveal within myself and within, you know, other people these aspects of ourselves that I think need to be brought to life. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you watched this whole video, I appreciate you. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Wild Owl Woman. It's all lowercase. And yeah, till next time.